Today, the modern quilter approaches quilting from a fresh perspective. Welcome to this brand new series, Fresh Quilting. It reflects the very best concepts and designers from the growing modern quilt movement. In each episode, we'll take a fresh look at design, color, shapes, and techniques. To begin each episode, we'll meet a leading designer. Today, well-known author and free motion quilt artist Christina Camelli considers which areas to quilt, uses echoes for effect, and contrasts curves and lines to create her exciting quilt designs. Then, in our community segment, art historian turned quilter Allison Evans and modern quilt activist Heather Grant discuss how to organize a charity quilting event. Quilt innovator Jackie Gehring shares her techniques for quilting with gentle curves, her specialty. It's all today on Fresh Quilting.
I'm Christina Camelli. I'm a free motion quilting author and teacher, and I'm here to talk to you today about choosing quilting designs for your quilt. When I go over this with students in my class, the thing I like to ask first is, what's the favorite thing about your quilt? What's the best thing about this quilt for you? And sometimes that's a fabric, sometimes it's a color, a particular shape, or just an area of the quilt. And if you have something like that in the quilt you're looking to finish, then start there. We think of ways that we can emphasize the things that you like best about your quilt. One of the best ways that you can emphasize something is by leaving it unquilted. So here I have a little example. In this block, I just quilted everything equally. It's all pressed down the same way. But in the second block, I've chosen this fuchsia color to leave unquilted. And hopefully you can see this in person. The fuchsia really lifts off of the fabric and grabs your attention first. It takes my eye another couple of seconds to even notice that there's this blue triangle right here. So leaving something unquilted is a way to get the viewer's attention first. Now you may have areas of your quilt that are too big to leave completely unquilted, and that's fine too. That's the situation that I had with this quilt here. I had these long ribbons of color that I wanted to emphasize, and I wanted the white to sort of recede into the background. So there, I just decided to use a less dense quilting pattern on the stuff that I wanted to emphasize. So it's really open, and I wasn't afraid to leave some bigger areas here so that it poofs up a little bit and it becomes the foreground of the quilt. And then with the white, I quilted it pretty densely, and that smushes down and becomes the background. There's other ways to increase focus on a particular area of your quilt. Anytime you stitch several times around a shape, echoing it, you give a visual reverberation to the area. It kind of underlines that part, whatever you've echoed, and it pulls the viewer's eye in there. And so here I've done both, leaving something unquilted and echoing around it. Another way to pull the viewer's eye somewhere is to have a bunch of lines that radiate out from a center point. So here I'm pulling a lot of focus on that star because all of these lines on the outside are leading in right to the star. So after we've thought about areas we want to emphasize, then you can turn your attention to what motifs might you use. And I always value the quilter's instinct on this one. If there's something that's coming to your mind, let's start there and start playing with it. For me, one of the things that comes to my mind first is pebbles. But pebbles take a long time. If you're going to cover a whole quilt in pebbles, they take a long time to quilt. And for me, I get a little bored of just doing pebbles. So I like to think of ways that I can use that motif a little differently. So here's one way that I've come up with. I've got a lot of the fun of pebbles, of just having them in these lines, but they're also interspersed with these wavy lines to give it a little bit of variety and to make the quilting go a little bit faster. Now, if you need help coming up with motifs, one thing you might do is look to your fabrics if you're using print fabrics. Here I've got a fabric and the quilting design that came out of it. And you might have inspiration like this all throughout your quilt. And if you do, this is a great way to find motifs that are already working with the quilt itself and just lift them up into the quilting design. So here is a piece of patchwork. And I've got some quilting designs that it inspired. This fabric leads me to this leafy vine. These little circles on the strings give me this kind of a pattern. I'm getting this great orange peel pattern off of this fabric right here. And then these little orange beads made me think of this design.